Hi everyone, my name is Norman. I run the blog nimbleneedles.com, and today I want to show you how to knit the Kitchener stitch on the purl side. In my last video I already showed you the regular Kitchener stitch, which is perfect for grafting two pieces of stockinette stitch together. But what happens if you have a project with purl stitches? Well, then you need a slightly different technique, the purlside Kitchener stitch. Again, all you need is a tapestry needle and some scissors and you are ready to go. So let's dive right into it. I have a little project knit in the round here and I want to close this seam here, much like you would close the toe of a sock. If you have a flat project, then really don't worry, the technique is exactly the same. Just like for the regular Kitchener stitch, you need to distribute an equal number of stitches to two needles facing each other with the wrong side. In this case, this is the knit side. You will need a tail that is at least 3 times as long as your edge is wide. I am using a red contrasting yarn here so you can see the seam better, but you can just cut the working yarn at an appropriate length and then thread the tail on a tapestry needle. The tail should come from the first stitch on the back needle, so distribute your stitches accordingly. So now it's time for the preparation stitches. You will only have to do these 2 stitches once. First, you need to put your tapestry needle through the first stitch on the front needle as if to knit. So from left to right, and pull the yarn all the way through. And then you have to pull the yarn through the first stitch on the back needle as if to purl. So from right to left, and then pull the yarn through. This was only the preparation. From here you'll start with the actual repeat. So first, put the tapestry needle through the first stitch on the front needle purlwise, so from left to right, and slip the stitch. And then put the needle through the next stitch knitwise. So knitwise, and leave it on the needle, and then put the needle through the first stitch on the back needle knitwise and slip the stitch, and then put the needle through the next stitch on the back needle purlwise. After each step, you should tighten up the stitches lightly. Don't pull too hard because you want to emulate knit stitches and you don't want to tie knots. So let's do it one more time. But make sure to like this video if you're enjoying it so far. So insert purlwise and slip. Make sure the yarn doesn't get trapped on top of the needle. It always should be below. And then insert knitwise and leave it on the needle. Then insert knitwise and slip it off. Oops. Knitwise. And then purlwise and keep. If you are familiar with the regular Kitchener stitch already, then you might have noticed that the repeat is exactly the other way around. And if you think about it, this is only logical because as you turn your project around, a knit stitch will appear like a purl stitch and vice versa. So of course the instructions need to be mirrored. So let's do it one more time. Purl and slip, knit, keep, and knit, and slip, and purl, and keep. As a start, I recommend you writing these instructions on a little piece of paper or cardboard. In a previous video I said write it on a piece of pizza, so I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I think cardboard is perfect because you can keep it in your project bag for future projects. And this is what helps me memorize the repeat. So you want to graft purl stitches, that's why you always start purlwise. The next rule is you always slip the first stitch and keep the second stitch, so I'm slipping it. The third rule is you always switch stitches on the same needle. So if you start with a purl, then the next is a knit. And the last rule you need to memorize is the last stitch on a needle is always the way you slip the first stitch on the next needle. So we inserted knitwise, that's why we slip knitwise as well. And then the third rule said you switch, so this will be a purl stitch. And that's how I memorize it. You start with purl, you always slip the first, you always switch stitches on one needle, and the last stitch is always the way you slip the first stitch. So I'm at the last two stitches here, so I insert purlwise one more time and knitwise one more time. And then it's time to look at the result. If it is still too loose, which is quite probable, then you can adjust the graft by pulling on the stitches one at a time, like so. So you have to pull on the individual stitches to tighten them up. Make sure you don't tighten too much, because then you will get a visible seam, and that's not what you actually want. You want something that looks exactly like purl stitches, and if you invert it like so, then it will look like perfect knit stitches, and that's the way it should be. And once you're satisfied, you can simply put the yarn through the last stitch like so, and you should have the perfect purl edge. And there's one little trick I want to share with you, just in case you are having trouble with this technique for whatever reason. What you can always do is you can invert your project, so turn it around and graft the wrong side with a regular Kitchener stitch instead. It will look exactly the same. And obviously, if you prefer to graft the purl side, you can also use it for stockinette stitch as well. Simply graft the wrong side. So this technique is really versatile. And that's it. That's how you do the Kitchener stitch on the purl side. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give me a big thumbs up if you liked it, and of course consider subscribing to my channel in case you don't want to miss any new videos. Happy knitting!